This time last year.
Great.
We're, you know exactly what I'm about to talk about. We're staring at a $90 CAC. This was after testing and trying so many different methodologies on the paid media front. It was a moment where you're like, you maybe stood up from your desk and you're like, we have to try something else. And that was a moment which like opened up a whole new Pandora box for us.
Yeah. Before we get into this, probably one of the most stressful times. Oh, by the way, shout out to Paul from Freshly sending over some cocktails in a can.
Bourbon cocktails.
Yeah, it's actually really good.
Really
Definitely
good.
Go check them out. Freshly.
Really good.
But yeah, thanks for bringing this up a year later. And I think we're in a better position. We were testing everything like on platform, right? Different ads, whitelisting, this and that, creative. It's like, what else can you do?
Right.
And I think this moment hit me a lot later than I'd like to admit, which is if I can't control what's happening on the, Meta, Facebook, whatever it is, I can't control that.
Right.
What can I control? And it's the experience post-click, right? So landing pages, our website in general, and how can we improve that experience through what we call CRO, right? Which is conversion rate optimization. How do we improve the UX, the UI, the overall experience from post-click to checkout, right? And I think there's a lot of things that we did that really did help us
and
improve CAC. Yeah, and we're still doing. But we did improve CAC from $90 to around $45 in just a few months. And we're continuously still doing that. So I think for this episode, let's dive into a few of the things that we did.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, the key of what you just said there is going from 90 to sub 50, around $45 CAC, right? Instead of forcing the platform to figure that out and us just kind of, every day complaining, it's not getting better, it's not getting better. I think taking what is controllable, like you said, is such a big hack in a way, because if you can actually improve your site metrics where conversion rate goes from 1 to 2%, let's say, right? That's doubling your business,
That's reducing your CAC by half.
Exactly. And so it's like, you can actually control that by just what's testing. It's still a frustrating process, but it's so much more telling because it's black and white through data, which I think is a cool part.
Yeah. So for the longest time, it's been 3 years. Avi, been running, ads the entire time. We created one landing page for our paid traffic. That's where we send pretty much everything, and we never made changes to it at all in the last, 2-3 years. For the longest time, it was just working, right? I think with Meta, they knew who to send to your website. They knew who was going to convert. So you didn't have to do the heavy lifting, right? Post update, now marketers really have to become marketers and really figure out how to convert traffic that Facebook may or may not know if they're going to convert, right? So landing pages, on the paid sense, we basically, had a page that was converting at a 1.8%, okay? Not terrible, but we weren't hitting KPIs, right? Especially when your cost per click is $2 to $4, you can't convert at a 1.8%, you're burning money, right? So the first thing that we did was we did a lot of research around why customers were buying our flagship product, right? And this kind of revolves around looking at reviews, kind of looking at comments, looking at our Amazon reviews, and really just like tallying up the concerns that we're addressing, right? And are we actually addressing those concerns in the landing page? Because the way that we had structured it was so basic and like, here's a collagen, here's the benefits, buy now, right? But why do people need it, right? What's the importance of the product? Why collagen over another hair loss treatment, right? So like giving that education up front was super important, because now the people that Facebook and TikTok are sending, they don't necessarily know what they're looking for or, the products that they're searching for, but it's like this like clouded traffic that just you have to convince, right? Whereas before it's like they kind of already knew, right? So one of the things that, we looked at was heat maps and, kind of the usage on the current landing pages. And one of the apps that we used was Clarity, right? There's a lot more out there like Hotjar and Lucky Orange, but we really like Clarity. Basically we look at the scrolling, at what point do people drop off, right? If, for example, your buy box is at the end of the page and by then only 15% of the people make it there, you have a problem, right? And you have an education problem. You have like a experience problem because people aren't actually making it to the point where they're going to buy, right? So looking at where these drop-offs happen, that's where we can go back and be like, okay, let me add something here to that. The experience is a little bit more cohesive and that, I want to look at the next section and the next section after that, right? So taking the landing pages, doing the research, we have our RV community. We asked, a bunch of questions in there like, what were some of the reasons you bought, right? And taking that and really structuring out, which I think is one of the better flows that I've seen. And this by no means happened overnight, but we're testing different things, right?
Testing. So
for example, you have your baseline of 1.8%. Now you're like, okay, maybe I need to add in a better testimonial section, right? So what we did is within the landing page, we A/B tested adding different sections so that one, we're not adding too much so that you can't make a decision what's actually driving the changes. So for that, we used Google Optimize. Really easy, it's free. Basically setting up a test like, okay, show this to half of the traffic and don't show this to the other half, right? And see if there's an improvement, right?
Talk more about the Google Optimize part, because I think sometimes when I mention to people, they're like, wait, it's that easy to set up an A/B test?
Yeah.
I almost feel like Google Optimize made it so easy that like a new founder of a business can set it up, right?
Absolutely.
It's what, just creating 2 links almost.
Yeah, I mean, there is that, right? It's like you have your copy of your baseline, you're making changes to the copy, and literally all you're doing is just redirecting traffic. 50-50, 100 people go and click on your ad, 50% are diverted to the new version. The other 50 are going to go to your old one.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people talk about like, but I like to A/B test in Facebook and this and that. It's like you're not really giving your changes a good enough chance because source of traffic can be so like day to day, it can be different, right? So as long as you're sending, from the same ad set, the same ad, that there's less variables that are like uncontrollable. And so that Google Optimize divide your traffic 50-50, right? So letting those things run like 7 days because, the buyer cycle is you're either buying on the first day or you need at least 7 days to really figure it out. So give it enough time, 7 to 14 days, and especially with the amount of traffic is super important because you can't make decisions based off of 100 visitors or, let alone even like maybe even 1,000, right? To really make a good assessment, I would say at least getting 5,000 visitors per session. I know the top dogs say you need at least 500 transactions. But you can get an idea of if something is performing better or not.
Getting a sense sometimes,
exactly, right? Like you adding a better testimonial section, is overall better for the page. And if you can see that there's a slight improvement, roll with it, right? And let's work on the next section. So a lot of things that we changed, right? A lot of it was educational pieces, right? I think a lot of people, when like I post our landing pages on Twitter, they're like, "Oh, it's so long." It's like I don't like I lose sense of what I'm buying, and like okay, fine, but we did have a very concise landing page, and we were converting really low, right? So we tested the complete opposite, and we loaded the page up with education, right? What is collagen, right? Why is collagen important? Boom. All right, I understand that now. What does it do for you? Benefits. Boom. Okay, cool. What are like some people saying about this? All right, testimonials, great, results, this and that. Boom, you got that. All right, why your collagen versus somebody else's? Boom, it's there. What about your formula? Is it better than everybody else's? Boom, it's there. And then offer, right? So really having the structure in place really allowed us to actually double from, and in some cases almost tripled.
5.5 I think was our best one, which was
like we were really
incredible.
Close to 6.
So
we went from 1.8% to let's call it close to 6. Right, on a good day when Facebook is
when everyone's acting well.
When everyone's and you're taking that $90 CAC down to 45. Because all you did was improve your conversion rate by doubling it. By testing a bunch of other stuff, right?
100%.
So when it comes to like UX and UI, there's a lot of things that you should do, right? And just a quick summary, basically look at why people are buying your products, summarize it, put it into a landing page that flows well, and then test each element one at a time so you can understand whether or not something is working, right? I think we added like maybe one or two things that we actually rejected because it hurt us.
Right.
So
didn't
like,
affect it, yeah.
So like make sure you're doing one at a time because you may like actually screw yourself at the end of the day.
You don't know which one's working.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think a lot of this is, even just fundamentally, when you look at a visitor coming to your page, there's one of three actions that happens. One is somebody's going to come to your page and they're going to leave right away.
Right.
Some people call it a bounce. Some people call it like, oh, they're just not interested. Click by mistake. Then the second person is they come to your page and they're going to buy right away because they made the decision on the ad level, right? That like, okay, I'm convinced, I'm buying this. Let me get to the thing. And then I think the third person, which I think is probably the most important person, is the scroller. And you have to build these pages and the experience for the scroller. And I think that's what's underestimated by people is like, oh, it's too long, it's too lengthy. You don't need to be the one who decides that, right? Yeah. As long as you create enough CTAs. I remember even you adding like call to action buttons way more often than other people would because it's like at every time you persuade them, you want to give them an action to say, hey, go and buy, right? And so I think it's like fundamentally, if you look at like the steps you took, right? It's like, all right, we're going to go and set up our data points, which was using something like Microsoft Clarity, right? To understand the whole thing. Right. You're then making it so simple to test things with Google Optimize, right? And then at the end, using tools like Shogun to just make quick changes. You would make a change like at 8 p.m. at night and it's ready to go at 8:15, and it's like, okay, wow.
And you can launch the test at 8:30.
It's insane.
So 100%.
No, I think that's so critical. I think it saved our company, to be honest. And it's like this thing where like CRO is like seen, I feel like has this stigma of like, oh man, like I don't know if I want to do it. It's one of those things that's like, it's like even paid media, you don't really have a choice. If you want to build a brand now, if you want to build your D2C brand or e-commerce business, CRO is like one of those things you have to do. It's like paid media, email, SMS, CRO. It's just synonymous now to something you need to be looking at.
I mean, even the best media buyers, listen, like in general, costs are going to go up regardless. Right. No matter what happens, like even if it's macro, whether it's platform, meta, whatever, costs are going to go up, right? The demand for ad space is going to continue to go up, right? You can obviously make better ads, but it's going to be a lot harder to bring down your cost of traffic in a time where it's going to continuously go up than actually just make 20%, 30%, 50% improvements on your website. Now 50% is a lot, but like there are things that we were completely missing that I'm sure a lot of people overlook, and just by adding certain things you can hit those numbers. Right? Went from 1.8 to 6%. It's doable. Right. It's time consuming. Right. Because you need time to actually, the testing and the learning phase is probably the hardest part. Right. That I think people don't want to like get into. Yeah. Like they think like, oh,
it feels overwhelming.
Yeah.
But it's so much easier to take data to guide you, knowing that there's probably going to be an endpoint, right? Versus saying, okay, I somehow need to get CAC to $30 from 90, right? We went from 1.8 to 5.4%, much easier, quote unquote, than what it would have taken. I don't even know if it's possible from 90 to 30 in CAC, right? So fundamentally, our business was what we had the same objective goal, which was improve total sales. And so I think CRO is now defined as like working smarter. And I think what is working harder is bringing CAC down. Right. So I think it's like one of those shifts in that it's happening that's like, can you work smarter now? Yeah. And I think CRO is really the gateway to let you do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I know some of the media buyers watching this and like, but like there's so many things you could do, cost cap, you know, consolidate. Like, listen, we did all of it. Like I've been running ads for 6-7 years. We did all of it. Yep. And what we were running at the end of last year, we actually brought back like for Black Friday. Yeah. And it's converting a lot better just because the pages convert better. Yeah. Right? So I don't want to hear it.
This episode is sponsored by
Postpilot. Postcards are back, and Postpilot makes it easy for you to get into your customer's mailbox with their white glove service backed with data that's proving to show 1,000% ROIs for brands. If you mention Chew on this, they'll run a full test for you absolutely for free.
Now back to the episode.
So another big point when it comes from like paid to landing pages, right? People aren't going to buy on the first touch point, right? And if you could do that, amazing. But what you also need to factor in is that people go and searching for your brand. They go to the homepage, the website. That's completely outside of the experience of the landing page, right? And that also needs to be optimized, right? So yeah, you could be running, paid traffic to a listicle, landing page, whatever it is. People found out about Avi. They're going to do their research. They're going to understand like, hey, is collagen in general good for me, right? Then they come back and that experience on the homepage needs to be dialed in.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And so I think there was a lot of tests that we ran and we're still testing. Like we're never not running a test, right? There's always at least 3 or 4 tests that we're constantly running.
Google Optimize is always on, right?
Yeah, Google Optimize is always running. And we're always looking at the data and trying to figure out, we're like always testing different theories, right?
100%.
So I think let's get into like maybe some of the fun ones that we did.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fun ones. And I think, the biggest piece is to touch on is the fact that you said we've always been running tests, right? And I think it's important to realize like making time for CRO, whether it's hiring a team, there's a bunch of great experts like Enrock, Carl Weiss, there's so many people we can lean on, but making time for whether it's internally or externally is something that you guys should definitely consider. And it's what we've been doing now for, 18 months now. But in any case, to get into some of the tests, right? I think one of the more exciting ones on a visual standpoint, right? You start at the top of our website, our mega menu, our navigation bar, right? It's one of those things that can be super to the point, right? Just make it easy text call outs and give people an easy way to get through things. Or you can go something on the other spectrum, which is super visual, right? Like almost where you're shopping by image, right? And navigating by image. And I think we tested both, right? We had a super simple one. And then we tested a mega menu, which had photos to every single navigation point and images like our best lifestyle imagery and our best product shots of different groupings within our website. And I think we found that people were just navigating more freely, were able to explore what they want. They were shopping by health goal. They were building bundles. They were, especially when you have a product company like us, which is 30 plus SKUs across 6 different health goals. I think this navigation for us has become a place where like it's its own shopping experience, right? So, whether you want to go and search for something or you want to go and visually find something, and being a pink brand it is, we had to give something a visual appeal. So mega menu for us was a great test that now has turned into one of our staple pinpoints way that people get across our different products.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, right, like there's a lot of brands that kind of have like very simple, shop, about us, this and that, like, and no disrespect to any of that because I'm sure it works.
Yeah.
But what we found was because, like you said, we have such a huge catalog, the categorizing of everything was so crucial.
So crucial.
Because we get comments all the time and we still get it and we're still trying to make it better. But it's like, where do I start? Right? And like, you have to make it like dummy proof where it's like, okay, I'm here. I'm looking for something in weight loss. Or I'm looking for something for my hair, skin, and nails. And making it easy to navigate to.
Right.
But not only that, but also showcasing the product. I mean, we have a pretty bright brand.
Yeah.
Like the branding is awesome. Like shout out to Ankit. Like did a phenomenal job. But like you can utilize your brand assets in that experience. Yeah. Right. It doesn't need to be just text only. Right. 100%. Showcasing like what the product looks like, gets people excited before they even get there.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that was probably one of the biggest things that we went through, like maybe 2 or 3 like renditions of it.
I think what you said was key though, was like we're still testing it.
Yeah.
Like the biggest piece of this is like, and I think it's important for everyone to realize, it's like, it's not like go set up a mega menu and that's it, you're done. We're like, we still swap out certain images, or like Ankit will look at it and be like, hey, go test this one because it's newer and it's cleaner from our studio now. And it's just like always trying to refine even what's there. So since we've built the mega menu, I think we've still tested it a handful of times again and against the current mega menu. So it's like within a variable test, we also do other multivariable tests within that, which I think is important to realize. Like a test doesn't stop once you get the answer. That's just a gateway to now test it again.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I think the second really cool test that I think has been interesting was within like our homepage shopping experience. I think we did a good job with the build a bundle piece, which is, again, we have so many SKUs, so many different ways to shop. And for us, it's easy to like think that people are just gonna buy a bunch of, like you would imagine like, oh, you go to the website, you click on every page, you add to cart on everything, and bang, you have an amazing AOV, and everyone's buying everything, and that's not what's gonna happen. Right. So instead, I think what we catered towards was like, go and explore. We're gonna make exploring super visual and super fun and learning. So many landing pages, so much copy, so much different information. Then if you're looking to build a bundle and save money because you're committed to buying more than 3 items, come to this build a bundle page where it's super easy to buy what you want. We're gonna put a little light box on there that gives you additional information, but you really come there because you're committed to buying. Right. And I think that we saw a great AOV. We see customers for retention loving it. It's one of those things that just becomes a part of a customer's journey now. Right. So I think that second edition, us adding and testing that and placing it in different parts of the menu has been really helpful too.
Right. I think one thing that people tend to forget is that you should also be building your website with your customers in mind. Yeah. Right. So if the majority of your traffic, or at least new traffic, is going to be to landing pages, they're typically not going to interact with the main website unless they come back and they search for the brand again. But the majority of the people that do interact with the website are your customers, right? So making sure that they understand, like after they, saw an ad for collagen, they're now coming back to Avi to see what else we offer. Yeah. Like, how can we make that experience better? How can they find the products that they need? And then how can they buy it by getting a discount, building a bundle, and like actually creating this experience for them that makes a lot more sense for a consumer.
Agree.
Right? And leaving the landing pages to handle, attracting and educating a potential new customer.
Agreed. So some of the tests we just went over, like, they're great for, again, experience and education and making sure that first customer journey is great. But then on the flip side, you also have to make sure that your AOV is going up. Right. You also have to make sure LTV when a returning customer comes is high as ever. And you have to keep an eye on CAC to AOV and CAC to LTV metrics. And so I think there was a couple of really key important tests that we did and have now implemented that were very successful for us. So
I think one of everyone's favorites, because a lot of people, use Avi as an example, which is really cool to see, is our cart.
Yeah.
Right. There's so many apps out there that are really good for AOV and improving, that number. But I think we did a really good job at developing a gamified cart in the sense that it would drive AOV. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that started, I believe, almost 2 Black Fridays ago, because that's when we wanted to start adding free gift. Like we wanted gifts to get people to obviously come back and shop the sale, but we wanted them to buy a lot. Mm-hmm. And how can we incentivize these large orders? And it's free gifts, right? So how do we incentivize free gifts? It's like, all right, spend 50, you get this, spend 100, you get this, spend 200, right? But how do you create that experience in such a very small, limited amount of space? And I think we utilized our cart in the best way possible, right? So there's a bunch of different types of carts, right? You have your cart page, you have your slide out cart, you have like little pop-ups. At first we had a cart page, right? And so what we ended up doing was, your AOV may be like, people were like adding one thing to the cart, and then it's like, okay, you either go to checkout or like you have to start the whole buying process all over again, right? And it wasn't great for AOV. So what we ended up doing is we moved over to the slide-in cart, okay? And we tested between the two, right? Where you're shopping, you can add to cart. It only pops open the cart, the side cart. You can close it and then continue shopping, right? So that was the first test, right? Just introducing a different variable to the consumers to see if we can improve AOV, right? And I believe we did see a lift, right? People were now adding, I believe, closer to 2 to 3 products versus 1.5 to 2, right? So your AOV does go up quite a bit. But now it's like, how do we get that even higher, right? So we established the winner was a side cart. Now, how can we incentivize a larger purchase? And we looked at a bunch of apps, a lot of great apps out there, but like nothing that did what we wanted it to.
Yeah.
So we had to custom code this entire gamified thing where there's a proper bar on top. It adds a free gift when you hit a threshold, right? So like you have $10 left to get a free, sometimes we did free shaker cup or a free product, right? You're $10 away.
Yep.
And like it's a no-brainer. Like I'm gonna get a shaker cup if I add one more product. So that helps AOV, right? So we implemented that. And obviously that helped AOV like crazy. Tremendously. I believe it was like almost $10 increments. We were at 50, then we hit 60, and then even now we're at 70. And especially during Black Friday, we're at like 85, 90, which is great. So the next step after that was, all right, if somebody needs to add $10 more to get to the next gift, how can we make it even easier for them to add a product to the cart without even going back to the website or without even like shopping around, and it's having the upsells in the cart itself. Right? And I think the strategy there was to put the lower AOV items like our gummies, our bars, and this and that, where like you can hit the next threshold with like a $15 or $20 product. So it doesn't feel like, oh, I got to add another $40 product. It's right there in the cart.
Right.
And then you add the product, you hit the next threshold, you get the free gift. And it's like, but you're 25 away from the next gift. But guess what? Another upsell shows up.
Again.
So you're all these steps were very calculated in the sense like, all right, you test one variable, that wins, right? Okay, you don't stop there. How can we improve it better?
Right.
Add in the next, test, and then the next test, and the next test, right?
Yeah.
So I think the version that we have now is in a very polished place where there isn't too much that we can test now. We've toyed around with some ideas. Just moving button placements and stuff like that.
Formats.
Yeah, just formats. But you now find a winning, model that suits the business. It helps the metrics that you mentioned, right? Like if CAC is going to be 50, how can we get our LTV to be higher? And that's getting AOV for secondary purchases to be a lot higher.
Gives you your new baseline.
Yeah.
And I think it's even just the way you kind of explain the cart. It's almost so like similar to like when you're building a landing page, right? It's just like you have to think about top-down approach, and like as people are reading through even their cart, like how are you gonna hit their emotion? How are you gonna get them closer and closer to that checkout button, but also maybe strike their emotion back up to get them back up to look at the gift bar, and then look back down to quickly add something. And it's like it's so psychological sometimes that again, we all think we may know, and what you guys can go and mimic our exact cart, and it may not work for you. Hence why the CRO piece, the testing piece is so important in this. Like
even just within that, like you said, the psychological part of it, we tested even the main headlines on the upsell, right? So it's like you have frequently bought together or frequently
complete your bundle.
Complete your bundle. Like then we tested enhance your results, right? And that outperformed.
Crushed.
Like I think it was like 30%, just by changing the words. And again, that's so simple to do on Google Optimize because you could just change the HTML.
It is.
Right? So like frequently bought together, literally make a change saying enhance your results and run the test. And you just let that run for like 7 to 14 days.
100%.
And if you see a bump, keep it.
No, and it's really cool too, because some of these winning tests, you go back and try to apply it in other parts of your business too. Like for us, knowing that gift bars and free gifts, right, incentivize people. I think we've done the same thing on Tapcart, right, and implementing the gift bar there and implementing incentivization there, and then even the postcards we're sending through Postpilot. It's like it's all incentivized to get the next thing, shop more, save more, spend more. Again, all of the words that we're using, shop more, save more, spend more, are all related to the metrics we want, LTV, AOV, or conversion rate. It's like we're all playing in the same playground as our customers. So it's just like we're just delivering different things differently. So
like looking back on it, we ran a few solid tests. I think two of my favorites that we actually tried, that not a lot of people try. One was on the homepage. So a lot of people do catalogs or carousels of their product catalogs. And to me, I feel like it's so common everywhere. What we ended up testing was replacing the carousel with a banner. Right? So on the banner, it shows, all right, here's the product line, right? So super collagen protein, and then having benefits and like, the USPs on that banner,
Yeah.
and then it's like shop all, right?
Yep.
So you get that level of, oh, I'm gonna go get this because it helps hair, skin, and nails. Let me go see the rest of the product line.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the collection page. And so testing that against the product carousel, because the carousel doesn't really give you any information other than what the product looks like, price, and an add to cart button.
Right.
We split tested this on the homepage, and the banner like drastically did a lot better.
Yep.
Because it improves also click-through rate too. Because
Right.
you're actually like understanding, oh, I'm clicking into this to learn about this that I kind of already have an inkling of or
Right.
understanding of. So that was like one of my favorites that I don't see a lot of people doing.
Yeah.
And the second one, shout out to Octane.
Oh, God. Love
The
those
quizzes.
guys.
The quizzes have been super solid for the business because, like I said before, the main question people have is like, where do I start?
Yep.
And the quiz is amazing for that, right?
Yes.
So implementing a quiz can be hit or miss because one, it is a kind of a lengthy process. Two, you kind of like you're asking for their personal details.
Yep.
Is it a turnoff? Is it not? Right. What we ended up seeing is that we just A/B tested the placement of it.
Yeah.
So showing the quiz on the nav and on the homepage
Yep.
versus not.
Right.
Okay. And just from that, we were able to see that one, just from the quiz being there, we saw an increase in leads.
Yes.
From just the quiz. We saw extra conversion on top of that because they were going through an email funnel, and then just in general, there was an AOV bump.
Yeah.
Because when you finish the quiz, we recommend 3 or 4 products for you,
Yeah.
and then right under we recommend bundles with those products.
Right.
And then you add those to cart, and then triggers the whole side cart, and you're off to the races there with the gamified cart. So that in itself was a pretty good test just to implement.
Yeah.
For the consumers.
Two of my favorite ones, one was definitely something smaller, but I feel like hits emotionally to a lot of people, is when we added like delivery time frames right on the product page, where it was like delivered in 3 to 5 days. We're living in a society where Amazon will soon probably deliver things before we think about it. And so we're competing against that.
Yeah.
And so like giving people hope of when to expect something is now giving them an ability to compare it to like, okay, this isn't too bad.
Yeah.
Right? It's always going to be worse than Amazon.
Yeah.
But it's not too bad.
That was my thing, is that I actually hated that test.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
was like, why would you want to show, like, listen, we're not Prime, like you said.
Right.
We're not delivering in 2 days. It's USPS.
Yep.
It's going to be 3 to 5 days.
Right.
I thought showing that was going to hurt more than it would help.
Yeah, I think I remember we were on the call with our CRO team, and you're like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of this test, though, right? It's like half the time this is like CRO is probably the most places we disagree. Is like, but at least there's one word. It's called test. That would be the tiebreaker.
I don't know, but just test it.
Yeah, just test it.
Just test it.
Yeah, and then I think the second thing is just like the ability for us to add upsells in so many places to see if it's even moving the needle by 20 cents or 30 cents. Like on checkout, we have upsell. On our thank you page, we have an upsell. Between checkout and thank you page with cart hook. And then even like on our own product pages, like we try and go with, we've tested the Amazon model of like, these are the products that work well together, right? And bundle it together. Just testing upsells everywhere, but doing it without it being like putting it down people's throat. I think that's been our best test, is like, how do we do it tastefully?
Yeah. And not like too salesy. It's not too like, oh, for like 50% off, get this.
Yes.
Like, you don't want to like ruin your brand integrity, but like we said, like enhance your results, right? If you're coming in for weight loss, like, hey, add this to lose a few more pounds or whatever it is, right?
Exactly.
I think it's all about copy placements and like just not, like you said, shoving it down people's throats.
100%.
So something to chew on.
Yep, as always.
From all of the above. I think the first thing I would love for people to do is just install some type of tracking tool, which is either like a Hotjar or a Clarity. I really like Clarity.
Yeah.
I think it's really clean. Data segments and everything is pretty solid. Just check it out and go and look at your top visited pages. 'Cause it'll actually give you that report. There's a report, top visited pages, and just see, are people actually making it to the points on your site that you want them to, right? If it's a landing page, are they even making it to the buy now button?
Right.
And assess if you need to make changes and, think them out and see where to go from there, right? To implement those changes, install Google Optimize. It's free. And you can literally start with a single test of, say you have a landing page, split test your banner. Your main banner on your landing page, try a different headline, try a different color, this and that. You'll be so surprised. Headlines just on the banners.
Yeah.
I've tested I had 10 different landing pages going on that were very similar to each other, but all that was different was the main headline.
Yep.
And what I would say is change the headline, make it congruent to, say, the angle that you're using on your ads, right? And just see which performs better, just through Google Analytics. Google Analytics by looking at Optimize.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome takeaway. I think my takeaway would be, I know we went over a lot here, and I know there's a lot on Twitter, a lot on LinkedIn, a lot on just everywhere in terms of what you can do. And there's a difference between what you can do and what you're going to execute on. And the difference there is a team and focus. Whether you're going to go and outsource this to a really good CRO firm, or you're going to use your in-house developer and build out a good cadence of testing, or you're a gritty founder and you're bootstrapped and you're going to do this yourself. Building out a team and time to implement CRO as part of your daily or at least weekly discussions. If it's not on your cadence right now, it has to be. And a lot of what you need to go do is what Ash gave as a takeaway first. That's what you need to go and do to execute it. But I think initially just starting and mentally telling yourself at least every week, you're going to do 2 tests. And if that's the very least you're going to go and do, just make that focus and work with the team. Great resources out there. Enrock, our preferred resource. There's Carl Weiss. There's, Barry. There's so many different people out there to work with. Go and work with the team or implement a team internally to make CRO a priority.
Chew on that.
Chew on that.